Well. Last week was Trump's worst week ever. I'm thinking that we have to start to retire that phrase because every week is Trump's worst week ever as president. But let's not focus so much on what he said, but let's focus on rather seems to be my favorite target as of late, the Christian community, or better yet, those so-called evangelicals. Last week we saw two of Trump's business panels dissolve because of his remarks over the Charlottesville incident. We saw the members of the Arts Council resign en masse, and we saw that Donald and Melania had to withdraw from the Kennedy Center Honors festivities in order to make sure that it happens because people weren't going to go if they attended. So bottom line is everybody seems to be speaking out against Trump over what he said about trying to equate those on the right protesting versus those on the left, quote, on the left, who were really defending our democratic principles. Even the Republican legislators came out in opposition to Trump, naming him by name, and when Sunday rolled around, not one of them would go on TV to defend him. But who was silent all week long? All week long, his council of religious advisors, the so-called evangelical ministers, were silent. And who went on TV on Sunday but I was going to say Reverend Jerry Falwell, but he's certainly not a Reverend. Jerry Falwell Jr., president of Liberty University, went on TV to defend Trump on Sunday, of all people. Even alumni from his university are so disgusted with him and his support of Trump that they are returning their diplomas, their degrees that they earned, because they don't even want anything to do with Liberty University anymore. And I'm not saying that the council had to resign in opposition, but surely, they had to say something, and they couldn't say what it was that Falwell said. Because none of them, not one of them, were on the front lines last Friday night or on Saturday, standing arm in arm with other ministers, defending free speech, defending our democratic principles. They were all in their little comfy offices, their little comfy churches. And then when it came time, there they are mugging in front of the camera for yet another photo op to show their support for Brother Trump. Disgusting when the business community has more moral authority than the church. That is disgusting. But it's also, if you look at the current profile of those so-called evangelicals, these are not church folks. No, these are not folks that go to church. These are not folks that really read the Bible. These are folks enamored more with personality than with truth. And that is the so-called case with Trump. They're just enamored with that personality. They're not even worried about the truth. The truth could hit them in the face and they still would deny it. And even on Sunday, Trump's campaign spokesperson, Katrina Pearson, was on TV. Somebody uncovered the rock where she was living, but they should not have, because she just made a disgrace of herself, accusing those on the left, the alt-left, of using ISIS-like tactics. Miss Pearson, who on the left drove a car into a crowd? Who on the left was carrying guns? Who on the left killed anybody? Who on the left injured anybody? Though, Miss Pearson, you are dead wrong, and insultingly wrong, because there was a young lady who was killed for defending democracy. She was not yelling racial epithets. She was not carrying a gun. She was not threatening anybody. But yet somebody chose to run her over. So who was the one employing ISIS-like tactics? Ms. Pearson. And to Mr. Falwell, how can you? How can you? How can you go and bow before your God? How? That's all I have to say. But before I close, let me just acknowledge one sad thing that happened over the weekend, and that was the passing of the comedian and activist Dick Gregory. Now, admittedly, I don't know really that much about Mr. Gregory. I had not really seen him perform since his performances were from many of his greater performances were from the 60s when I was just a youngster. But I always would read about Mr. Gregory standing up for this, standing up for this. Mr. Gregory was a giant of a man. Mr. Gregory was somebody who sacrificed really fame, greater fame, I should say, in order to fight for the common man. Mr. Gregory was a hero. Mr. Gregory will be missed. Mr. Gregory leaves a great void on this earth.